Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Velero community meeting and open discussion. Today is September 22nd, 2020, and per usual, we're going to start out with some status updates. First up, we have Nolan.
Yeah, so I've got a couple PRs out. The first one is a little bit larger. It's pulling our plugin release process out of our brains and putting it on virtual paper. This applies for all of our plugins except for the vSphere plugin, which is maintained by a different team inside of VMware who has a lot more vSphere expertise. I think the majority of the process is documented there. I'm still trying to figure out why some internal links are not rendering in Hugo for some reason. Shortcodes aren't working. And I tried a bunch of different stuff according to their docs. I'm not getting it to work. So I may just abandon it and reference the page without an anchor. But was documenting that so we can get the releases out following 1.5.1. The most important plugins that I think we need to get out are Azure and CSI. I know those both have some fixes that need to get out. The next PR I have there is it's a small fix, but it's been annoying. I know some folks have been hit by this, and I get emails for this too. When you push to your main branch on your fork, the build process would try to push to Docker Hub, and nobody has permissions to push to Docker Hub except for this VMware Tanzo /Velero repo. So I made this change to explicitly skip that step so that people aren't getting bogus failures. So this has been tested against my fork and shouldn't have any bearing on changes in actual in this Velero repo. Besides that, been trying to get into reviews and issues on the main repo. I've been doing community support as well. I do owe some reviews on the Helm repo. I know I've gotten some pings on that. I've also been brainstorming on ways to make Velero either more concurrent or faster as part of the v1.6 release. I don't have any concrete suggestions on this right now. I know we talked a little bit about defining high-level goals last week. So I owe that document still. But I'm looking for ways to possibly make things faster without a complete overhaul, or what we can do for ways to make it more concurrent. Basically looking for a variety of implementation solutions, not just one. And then jumping, I guess, back up to the top, this is a request for the maintainers to look at this PR from Ashish. Oh, yeah, I need to get the semicolon off of there. This is basically updating to use some new REST APIs that were included in 1.5.1 in the CSI repo. So if we can get this reviewed and merged, then we can include it in a new release for the CSI plugin. And I think that's most of what I have.
Awesome. Any questions, comments for Nolan? All right. Moving on to Kalisia.
Hello. So last week we still spent, we worked as a group on 1.5.1 release. There were reviews, and I am aware that I owe more reviews and GitHub issues, and definitely Helm chart work in reviews. And I'm also trying to get this download request migration out. I have to finish the CLI side of that. That's it for me.
All right. Any questions or comments for Kalisia?
Any help needed on the download request one?
No, not so far,
Okay.
but maybe.
All right. Next up, we have Bridget.
Hi, everyone. So as it's already been mentioned, I also helped out a little bit with the 1.5.1 release. Primarily, there were a few issues that we encountered during the release process with some of the documentation and also with some of the scripts. So I have some PRs open to help fix up some of those issues that were found. I've been spending some time looking at some of the internal build processes that we have at VMware. Just some other things that we're going to have to do within the 1.6 time frame just to improve some things internally. So I'm going to be looking at that and automating some of those processes because I think right now it's all very manual is my current understanding. With regard to some of the things that have been piling up, Carlisia, you mentioned, and Nolan as well, with the reviews and GitHub issues and things. I haven't been doing a lot of the triage on the issues yet, so I think I will start and try to get involved there where I can. So ping me if there's any help needed. I'd be happy to help. That's it.
Sounds good. And we're also doing something fun on Thursday.
Yes, we are. I didn't know if you were going to mention that later, Jonas, or I haven't looked that far down the dock yet. Yes, I'm going to be helping out with the upcoming office hours. They're going to be starting on Thursday. So I'll have some prep work to do for that. Sorry, I haven't looked to see if there's a discussion topic for that.
No, there's no discussion topic there. So I just thought I'll mention it. So yeah, on Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, and other times in Central and Mountain Time, of course, we're going to host the first ever Velero office hours. So the office hours is a little different than the community meetings. So the community meetings where we do status updates and discussion topics here, you all know what's happening in these meetings. So in the office hours, it's more an open forum for you as users or contributors to Velero, where you can ask questions like, how do I do X in Velero? Or how do I configure my backups on this specific cloud provider? How do I do this? How do I do that? And also, how do I start contributing to Velero? How can I improve my local dev environment when I want to help out and contribute to Velero? So things like that, more open forum, and we will have a few topics each week that might get punted to the next week, depending on how many questions and how many discussions we have. So the plan here is to start at 1 and we'll finish up at 3 p.m. If there aren't any questions or anything like that after like an hour, we'll cut a little short. But anyone can join in and just ask questions. As I said, it's an open forum, so please join in and chat with us at 1 p.m. on Thursday.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing some of you there.
Yeah, it's going to be super fun. So it's going to be run by Bridget and Ashish. Any questions on the office hours? All right.
This is, I think you may have mentioned this, Jonas. Sorry, but this is bi-weekly, right?
Yes. So we're doing it twice each month. So on the 2nd and the 4th Thursday. If you are a member of the Velero Google group, you should have gotten an invite. If you haven't gotten an invite, please let me know. We've been having some issues getting invites through in the Google group. So if you haven't gotten an invite yet, please ping me on Slack, and I will make sure that you get one. All right, next up we have Dave.
Hey, so let's see. So working on the vSphere plugin, and one of the things we're doing is blocking some of the resources that are internal to the project specific supervisor cluster. So I put that code in. Basically, there's some resources that if you set them without the system actually being aware of setting them, they break things. So we're just blocking those from backup and restore because you can't really restore them. And then kicking off a couple of open source projects. These are existing projects that we're trying to bring out. So GVDDK is the wrapper for the vSphere virtual disk development kit. It's a toolkit for extracting snapshot data and restoring volumes. We've got the code, it's already open sourced, but it's been part of the Astrolabe project, and we're kicking it out as its own separate project. It's probably not hugely interesting. And then as part of our testing effort, we have a data generator that's a synthetic test for backup restore. So it will generate data and then verify data. So we use that as part of our internal testing. We're going to start pulling that out into the Velero end-to-end tests. So we're open sourcing that.
That is great. More open source goodies.
And Dave, does the vSphere plugin tests currently use Kibishii right now, right?
They do, among other things. But yeah, so the Kibishii is just basically generates a bunch of files, knows what's in them, and then can verify them afterwards. And we can do that scale out, so you can run N replicas, you know, to generate 100 gig or a terabyte each, and scale it up and down. It's a Kubernetes app.
Okay, and it's that's for the contents of a persistent volume, not necessarily the contents of the Kubernetes API / etcd.
Yes, and I think that's actually something we need to talk about, is how to verify the contents of the API server. I was going to check and see if we already had some stuff there, but
yeah, not right now, but
so I think we should add that under this. As long as we've got this test tool, we'll put that in as part of it.
Cool.
Sounds good. Any other questions, comments for Dave? All right, and we're moving on to the discussion topics. Nolan, you got the first one.
Yeah, so this was a follow-up from last week. We had a discussion about spacing between pre-releases, the RC and GA, or an RC and GA. I put some sample timelines that were thrown out last week, but the actual discussion, we'll want to keep the discussion and decisions documented here in this issue. Excuse me, like I put in this comment, I'd like it for us to make a decision by this Friday, September the 25th, for the 1.6 timeframe. That's not necessarily binding forever and ever, but it's what we'll go with for 1.6, so that we can try it and iterate. My thoughts were looking at roughly a 3-month cycle. Pre-releases don't have a set time to start within there, but it's about when we're starting to get features roughly complete, but maybe they have some bugs. And we should be releasing, we should feel free to release betas as we, alphas or betas as we need. So I don't want to set an arbitrary restriction on just one, because we should be, I think we should feel free to release them in response to feedback, both bugs and people saying, hey, wait a second, this feature doesn't work. Like this design is flawed. And then for spacing, I think beta is 1 to 2, 1 week between. And then once an RC is cut, I'm open to discussion, but 1 to 2 weeks. The final one to be determined. But once an RC is cut, we can say 1 to 2 weeks until the GA is released. So just summarizing my position there. Looking for feedback from other folks, especially people not on the core maintainer team, like what works for you, and if you could share that here and we can get it captured in the issue as well for posterity, that would be awesome.
So any comments on this? Do you think it sounds like a good timeline? Not a lot of discussions for a discussion topic.
I agree with what Nolan proposed. I just added my comment there.
Awesome.
Yeah, I guess the question for the community members is, does this like 3-month release cycle, is this something that works for you, or, you know, would we want something different?
Hi, this is Phong. I think it's good for us because we also have about 3-month release cycle in our company. And for example, if I'm waiting for some feature that we want to enhance the Velero, like recently we have a order resource, right? We only need to wait for that 3 months so that we can incorporate that into our product. If it's longer than that, we will have to push our release and waiting for that too long. So 3 months seem to be matching with what my cycle of release is. I'm just speaking from my my personal experience. I don't know if any other company they have the same, you know, cycle release, but 3 months seem to be reasonable for me.
Yeah, that's exactly the sort of feedback we're looking for. Not to, well, yeah, to put folks on the spot, like Dylan or Alay or anybody else from Red Hat. Like, I know you folks build on Velero a lot. And I noticed Conveyor is still on 1.3. Is 3 months too much for you, or is...
Yeah, I can jump in there. We actually just upgraded to 1.4. It's kind of weird if you look just at the version strings in our conveyor fork, because we have a release. Our release cadence is actually in 1.3 currently. So you may be seeing 1.3s in places where it's actually referencing our conveyor release. But we did just upgrade our Velero fork to 1.4. We are moving a little bit slower because we do have for example, we actually met this morning to talk about what was the timeline for starting to get 1.5 tested and merged in. And we have a pretty weird requirement that we are supporting some pretty old Kubernetes versions. So we just have to do some pretty extensive testing to make sure we can actually, especially like, okay, controller runtime. I don't think you guys go back to support 1.7 with the controller runtime library, and we have that requirement today. That may change, obviously, but so we're on 1.4 now, and I think the plan for us is we really want to start testing 1.5 with all our testing suites as soon as possible, since we're kind of concerned about that one. So it did take us a while to go from 1.3 to 1.4, but I think the change to 1.5 will be faster for us.
Yeah, that Kubernetes release dependency is worth mentioning, and that's something we're discussing internally. Just for transparency, this is something that Velero is probably going to sync to the VMware Tanzu Kubernetes grid decisions on, but that's not set in stone yet.
Okay.
But that was a good reminder. I didn't remember that conveyor went back to 1.7, but I did know that at one point. I just forgot it.
Yeah, I mean, really, because we have so many folks using OpenShift 3, which is, it's just, they're still running old versions. They have no desire to upgrade. So we have a pretty far back dependency tree. So.
And conveyor is meant to be a OpenShift 3 to OpenShift 4 migrator. Is that correct, or is that a misclassification?
That is how the project started. We now want to support 4 to 4 migrations, but mainly, yes, it's meant to do 3 to 4. Probably will. We're trying to hopefully extend it to support a bunch of 4 to 4 use cases. So it could change, but that's accurate for now. Yeah. We also consume. So we have this other project that it's currently called OADP. It's essentially a data protection solution for OpenShift, and we use Velero for that. So the conveyor Velero fork, it's actually used not just for. Sorry, I'm throwing a few different things out here, but there's a migration tool which is meant to migrate workloads from 3 to 4. And then we also want to just support backups and restores on OpenShift itself. So that conveyor Velero fork is used there as well. So that's definitely helped drive us to stay on the newer Velero versions. But we also just allow customers, since it's just an upstream community project right now, we allow folks to use the Velero images too. So we have OADP up to 1.5 and stuff. So.
Okay. That's helpful.
So, I mean, I guess to bring this back to your original question, the three-month release cycle is actually, we like it, especially with OADP, since it's an upstream thing. We want to stay with the newest, latest and greatest with Velero. It just gets trickier for us with the migration toolkit, with the version dependencies. So I don't think I think 3 months is fine. I guess I'm curious how much burden it is for you guys if you find that to be too fast, but
Just personally, I think 3 months, even 6 months in an enterprise setting is super aggressive. And it's not Velero it's not unique to Velero. Upstream Kubernetes has this problem too. OpenStack had the problem. So it's not unique and it's not new, but in enterprise, like you said, you have customers using OpenShift 3, Kubernetes 1.7. In the enterprise world, Kubernetes 1.7 is fairly new,
exactly.
based on their reckoning of time. It's newer than mainframes. But that's good to know. I think my perspective is I think 3 months is good for getting new features out. And in this cloud native world, it's all of us are helping our customers adjust. What their appetite is for upgrading is going to come down to negotiation there. VMware has customers that want to stay on older stuff too. It's the nature of enterprise.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Yeah, I mean, happy to chat more about our use case if it's interesting and related to this. Just let me know.
Okay, well, those data points are helpful for me. If there aren't any other data points for people to add, then I think I'm willing to move on. I just wanted to get a little bit more feedback from folks outside the team.
I just want to add a little bit. We in the last release, the 1.5 RC1 is very helpful for us in terms of integrating the release 1.5.1 into our product, because when we have that release 1.5.0 RC1, we can take out all the compiling problem with upgrading and so on and so forth to KS. So when you guys release the 1.5.1, I can only switch one file, one small text in the POM file, and that's it. I mean, everything goes smooth. So I really appreciate that RC1 release, at least from my personal experience with it.
What's a good time frame for you then between the RC release and the time we go GA? So we're thinking 1 or 2 weeks at this point.
The 1 week seemed to be reasonable from my point of view, because we have all the time needed to smooth out all the roughness. However, if we hit some bugs in the RC1, and there might not be enough time to fix it in the release. So that is something that I concerned, but very fortunate that we do not hit any problem with this RC1. So we can use the 1.5.1 very smoothly.
And Dylan, did your team use the RC with the 1.5?
So for OEDP, I have installed the 1.5 RC's images for my Velero install, but I can't say that I'm doing complex stuff with it. It's more just, hey, install Velero and back up a WordPress app for a demo. We have not pulled in 1.5 at all for our migration product. So,
okay, that's fair. And the RC was kind of a new thing in 1.5, so that's totally fair.
All right. Any other comments on this one? Okay, I think we can move to the next one. We have Pujita here who has a question. You want to unmute yourself?
Yes. Hey, everyone. This is Pujita from Dell Technologies. We recently found out that when we have an OpenShift native resource deployment config in a project, which has involved one replication controller, and we are trying to perform a restore to new namespace, we happened to get this error from Velero, which seemed to trigger a thought whether we support this resource with respect to Velero restore. And the Velero version that we used was 1.3.2. So I just wanted to bring this up in this forum and then ask if we support this resource for restore.
Anyone want to chime in?
I'm actually trying to find, I'm not sure if this is a Velero error or if this is something that could be resolved by an OpenShift plugin. So I mentioned conveyor.
so I can actually jump in here, Nolan, if you want.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
We dealt with this. So image tag is a new resource in OpenShift 4.4. And it's something that we had to basically add some logic into the OpenShift plugin. I would recommend if you're using Velero with OpenShift, we have tried to get to a point now, I'll paste it in the chat. We do have an OpenShift plugin that the location's changed a couple times, so I'm not sure if I still have an outdated one on the Velero docs itself, but I pasted it in the Zoom chat. This plugin is meant to be used with vanilla Velero installs on OpenShift. And then we also use it from our migration product as well. But this does have an image tag plugin in here. For the current version of it, I believe we simply skip the restore of it because image tag is essentially a secondary virtual resource in the cluster. So what we do instead is we recreate the image stream tag resource, which automatically gets the image tag resource to get recreated. So it's just kind of a weird little workaround we did, but image tag is not even really documented yet. It was like a new resource added in 4.4 that is not really being used yet. So we simply added a restore plugin to skip it. But if you are interested in, especially restoring deployment configs, we have a deployment config plugin that should do the job. It's not very complicated. It's basically just handles the namespace mapping and then checks if you had any internal image references, and it does a swap for you. So yeah, I mean, we're looking for people to test this out. We really only used it in the context of OADP and our migration product. So if you are interested in running Velero and OpenShift, I think this would get the job done for you.
Sure. Thanks. I'll take a look at it. Thanks.
Can we contact you offline to continue on that? Maureen? I mean, Dylan.
I think you cut out there, Fong.
Is there a question? Sorry, I might have missed it.
Oh, I just say, can we contact you offline to continue on it? Because Pujita and I are on the same team at EMC, Dell EMC here, and we might want to contact you offline and continue on that OpenShift Velero plugin.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You can contact me on the Kubernetes Slack, or if you have an issue with that plugin itself specifically, you can file a GitHub issue there too, and we'll respond there, whatever works.
All right, thank you. I'll contact you via Slack, right? Or
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey guys, I'm Olay from Reddit. Really quickly, just wanted to ask a question. Can we probably use OADP here, because by default it will come with the plugin installations, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we can bring that up real quick. So let me get a link, another link for you. If you are interested in using Velero and OpenShift, we did try to package it up in an easy to use operator. So here is another link in the chat. This is this thing OADP I keep talking about. Essentially, it allows you to install this operator. It's published on the community operators in OpenShift. So if you're using OpenShift 4 and you've enabled the community operator source, you can basically just click on OADP, install it, expose the Velero API itself, and then you create a custom resource that will go and install the OpenShift plugin. We'll install Velero with the OpenShift plugin and AWS plugin by default. And then it's fairly pretty easy to get started with Velero using this mechanism. But if you're already comfortable installing it, you can just add the plugin yourself as well. The benefit of using something like this OADP operator is if you want to back up an application on OpenShift that has internal images, so images that exist in the internal registry, then this operator is going to set up all the bits needed to actually get the image contents in the S3 bucket as well. So that's kind of why I'd push you in this direction. But if you already have a workflow with the Velero installed that you know how that works, this will work on that as well. But please reach out to me if you have any questions about any of this. I'm happy to kind of talk through this on Slack. I'm a DY Murray on Slack too, if that helps.
Awesome. Thank you, Dylan. And thank you, Pujita, for bringing this up. All right. Does anyone have any other discussion topics that they want to bring up on the meeting today?
I have a real quick question for Dylan and Alay. Does OADP, does the Velero Openshift plugin back up the images to the S3 bucket if you do not use it with OADP, or does it is it not able to do that?
It is not able to do that, and the reason for that is we basically have to stand up a temporary registry pod in the cluster that is backed by the S3 bucket, and that orchestration has to happen outside of the plugin. So
Got it.
we will simply skip the internal image backup if you don't have that registry enabled. So if you do it outside of ODP, you just get everything except the image backups. Well, let me clarify, that's how it's supposed to work. If it doesn't work that way, please let me know.
While Dylan is looking that up, we've been working with the plugins on transferring the images, and our experience is that this is kind of an improvement area for Velero plugins in general, because there is no way for us currently to specify a dependency of a plugin and have the plugin code handle it. Fortunately, in all our products, we have other agents that can deploy this dependency for us. So we get away by depending on them. But for instance, if you are deploying Velero by itself, you no longer have that other agents to install those dependencies, and that's where this fails.
So I think I'm not quite understanding that. So if you're saying if the plugin depends on, say, other pods or daemon sets or stateful sets, then deploying it with Velero by itself, you're having challenges doing that? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. So
Okay.
so the way we orchestrate this is we would set up a registry deployment that will dump the images from the OpenShift internal registry into the deployment that we have set up. So that's how backup will work. And on the restore, it will be the other way around. From our registry, it would be dumped into the OpenShift registry, right?
Okay. I'm curious about this because it sounds like this might be similar to how the vSphere plugin works. The vSphere plugin has a separate, I believe, daemon set? I might be wrong there. It might be a stateful set.
We have all kinds of bad things going on.
Yeah, but it has what it's called a data manager that comes like and sits beside Velero.
Mm-hmm.
But we do have, I'm trying to think what the installation process for that is like. It's basically that YAML has to be installed side by side in the plugin.
It happens in the init container right now.
Okay.
So when we init, when the init container runs, we install the plugin itself. We copy the plugin over to the plugins directory, and then we go ahead and we create the YAMLs for the data manager and now the backup driver. But those are strictly things that we use internally, and they're very tied inside the plugin. Whereas this sounds more like we're actually taking care of like Kubernetes images and stuff, which you may even need to be able to get at them before you boot Velero.
No, I'm not sure if I'm able to follow um, how we would be able to get that dependency before we install Velero, right?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So our dependencies are internal to us. So we need these things for us to be able to restore, but Velero has to be installed first in order for our plugin to get called. So our stuff is strictly moving volume data at this point.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I was wondering where the difference was between the vSphere plugin and like this OADP stuff, but it sounds like it's the point at which you're trying to inject into the lifecycle.
Yeah. Now we are developing this operator that installs Velero, and that's really for initially getting things into the project specific environment. But we're planning to open source this, and I think we're planning to make this a more general Velero feature. And I wonder if it makes sense to have plugins to the operator. Maybe that would be helpful for this. So we can consider that in the future.
Yeah, yeah, that may be. Sorry, I wanted to dig into that just a little bit and see if there was any way we could pull these things together, but doesn't sound like at the moment.
Yeah. So from our perspective, for our dependencies, we have two distinct requirements, right? First is before the plugin runs, we need to make sure that the dependency is healthy. And also during a backup and restore, we need to make sure that the dependency is healthy. If during a backup or a restore, the dependency is not healthy, we kind of like short circuit that. Instead of timing out, we are planning on just declaring that this migration or restore, backup restore will not succeed because we know that the dependency is not healthy. It would be awesome if we could get these requirements into Velero itself, so that like we can Velero can stand alone as a standalone product. Velero can handle these things. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So like to use an example that's in Velero, like if Restic isn't even running and you need to have Restic in the backup, we should fail the backup because Restic's not running.
Yeah.
So this is similar. This is a similar situation.
Yes, I think so.
Okay, that's useful to know.
Hey, hi, myself Narsimha. Can I ask you one question regarding this Velero backup?
Sure.
I took entire cluster backup by using Velero. So while restoring this cluster into this new cluster, means migration. So I'm getting replica sets repeated as well as deployment apps also got repeated things.
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
So I used Velero to take cluster migration from one cluster to other cluster. While restoring this backup, what I took entire cluster backup, I get some replica sets and deployments are getting repeated. So if I have a replica sets of 4, it may some duplicate replica sets got created by using Valero's backup. And one more question I have to ask regarding this Velero is that Velero will handle this deployment process what I used in my cluster. Means if I'll take entire clusters backup, if the migration is going to happen, Velero will have the same deployment process to bring up the cluster.
So for the first one, so what you're saying is you deploy it and you do the migration,
Yeah.
and the deployment and replica set comes back with like more pods than what it originally had.
No, I don't get any more pods, but replica sets, it's showing that duplicates.
Oh, okay. So there's more than one entry when
Yeah.
you do like kube control get.
Replica sets as well as deployment apps also I can get duplicates. Here in deployment apps I used config maps as well as routing MS, means config microservices and routing microservices. So in that scenario the deployments also will get repeated, and the same thing replica set also will get a duplicates. It means finally the deployment apps and the replica set apps getting duplicated.
Hmm. And this is
And I'm getting that webhook validation failed. Maybe it didn't follow this same deployment process while migration. I have posted this question in email itself, Velero. I didn't get any response.
Oh, did you post this in the Google group?
Yeah, in Google email, Gmail. I think you can see in Narsimhara. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'll take a look at the Google group message and look at the errors in specific, because I'm not sure I can answer this live. But I will take a look at the Google message and respond today.
Okay. Send email itself.
Yep, I will do that.
Sure. I'll come up with the same question next week and with this complete error log what I got. Today I just removed my entire cluster because of this repeatance. I will show you that in next week.
Okay, well, hopefully we can take the discussion to the mailing list.
Sure.
Be easier to troubleshoot this with actual logs and output.
Okay, sure.
Sounds good. And this is also something that could be taken up during the office hours that we have on Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern. So if you want to bring it up, then you can also do that, and then we can take a little deeper look into it. All right. Any last discussion items anyone wants to add in for today? All right, then we'll dive into shoutouts, and we only have one today. Nolan?
Yeah, so we didn't have a whole lot of PRs that got merged across the projects from external contributors in the last week or so, but I wanted to send out a thanks to Michael, for this quick PR that it's not merged yet, but he submitted this PR for injecting the TZ data package into the container image, that's the word, and allowing the user to set their time zone. So thank you for submitting that.
Awesome. And with that, I'm going to close out the meeting for today. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Have a fantastic rest of the week. Please join us on Thursday for the first ever Velero office hours. And we'll see you all next week. Have a good one, folks.
Bye.
Thank you.